Raider Nation, thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast, brought to you by the Raider Ramble. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Prom Dress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with Raider Homer and T3 Raider Facts, and we're ready to talk some Raiders football together.
Always ready to talk Raider football, especially since preseason is here.
Big win at Allegiant Stadium this past week, and we'll break it down for you and then look ahead to the Rams. So let's go.
Today on the show, we'll look at some of the news and notes from the past couple of weeks, since we didn't have a show last week. And as T3 already mentioned, we'll break down the win against the Seahawks and look ahead towards the Raiders' next preseason opponent, the Rams.
And my bad, Raider Nation, that we did not have an episode out last week. I was coming back from Canton. My flight was delayed. It was a cluster F, to say the least. But Canton, Ohio was worth it. It was fantastic to see Coach Flores and Charles go into the Hall of Fame in person. And if you look closely, you'll even see a guy with a yellow mask in those crowds in the Raider Nation that they were showing.
Hey, even though we didn't have a show, we were well represented. Homer, good on you.
All right, Raider Nation, this is the Only Nation podcast, and we want to hear from the Only Nation. So give us a call at 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. You can leave a voicemail, or you can send us a text.
Here's the latest Raider news.
Last week started off with the announcement that General Manager Mike Mayock had tested positive for COVID-19. In a statement obtained by the NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport, Mayock made the following statement. Very grateful that I am vaccinated, as I could very easily be in a hospital rather than working comfortably from home. After a short stay at home, Mayock returned to practice with the team late last week.
You know, this is not quite over yet, COVID, but luckily Mike Mayock got that vaccine. Hopefully this will be encouraging to the players, and maybe they'll be more inclined to take the vaccine. But I guess we're doing pretty good on numbers because we haven't heard a lot of bad reports coming out. But thank God Mike Mayock is okay. I think that this roster is really starting to shape up. I think it was apparent that we have a lot of talent on this roster in the first preseason game. Yes, I know it's only preseason, but when your 2s and 3s are looking that well coached and playing fairly well, it's promising. So I'm excited that Mike Mayock is a part of this team and thankful that he didn't have to battle COVID very hard.
Yeah, the Raiders are ahead of the curve on the COVID thing. I'm happy about that, not just from a numbers standpoint, but from a safety standpoint. And as we all continue to work through the variants and everything else nationwide, and I know that some parts of the country are affected more than others. I just like it that the fact that the Raiders are very diligent in doing what they need to do to protect each other, their teammates, their families, and those around them in Vegas.
Veteran journeyman offensive tackle Sam Young announced his retirement. The 34-year-old, who was coming off an injury-riddled season with the Raiders in 2020, appeared in 11 games with 7 starts last season. The team brought him back in early June to compete for the right tackle spot, and after 6 days of camp practice, he decided he was done. With the additional roster spot available, the Raiders added to their offensive line depth by signing free agent Jeremiah Putasi, who had also been a journeyman, since being drafted into the league back in 2015 by the Tennessee Titans.
Best of luck to Sam Young. He came in. I had high hopes from him last year, particularly when he stepped in for Trent Brown, but then he proved that he couldn't really stay on the field and be available either. When you're 34 years old and an offensive lineman and you've had some injuries mount up, the clock is ticking. So obviously I think the time came. I know that there are some people in Raider Nation who are reading a lot more into the fact that a lot of people retired one after the other. But I'm not reading any more into that, in the fact that this guy simply he ran his course, he was done, and he decided to retire. So best wishes going forward to Sam Young.
You know, I liked his effort last year, and when he was healthy, he was a solid backup. Best of luck to him, 34 years old. Hey, that was a hell of a career, you know what I mean? He's hanging him up, and he can hang him up with some pride. And watching the game, they talked about Brandon Parker being a pretty good swing tackle, so I'm feeling confident that we will be okay, especially with some young guys like Jared Jones-Smith coming up right behind Brandon Parker. So I think we'll be okay. And congratulations to Sam Young for his solid career in the NFL.
Shortly after returning from practice after being on the COVID-19 list, running back Jalen Richard is now out with a foot injury. According to Sean Reed of The Athletic, Richard will be out indefinitely and there is no current timetable for his return. Wasting no time, the Raiders again added to the running back room, bringing in another former back from the Alabama Crimson Tide stable, in the form of Bo Scarborough. Originally drafted by the Dallas Cowboys in the 7th round in the 2018 draft, Scarborough has also spent time with the Jaguars, Seahawks, and most recently, the Lions. Scarborough played for 3 seasons at Alabama in 2015 through 17 and was a member of 2 national championship teams. To make room for Scarborough on the roster, the Raiders waived tackle Devery Hamilton, who has been on the NFI list.
I don't think this is a very good situation for Jalen Richard. He's played well with us for the last 3 to 4 years, and I do like Jalen. But, with DJ Turner showing up and playing well, I know we talked about this, and it sounded crazy, but, Hondo Carpenter came out with an article the day after we recorded the last episode stating that DJ Turner was this type of player, this joker type of player that can really help out this roster and allowing us to keep an extra player in certain positions or any given position. And I think that this really does hurt Jalen Richard. Now, Ragus, he played well in the game, but if it comes down to Ragus and Turner, I'm still going to stick by the whole keep DJ Turner because Turner, you saw him, right? He ran a couple of times. He can return, played wide receiver. The kid is a damn good player. So I'm excited to see what he can become. So, yeah, hopefully Jalen Richard is okay, but I don't think he's going to make this team. And then, bringing in Bo Scarborough, I don't think he's got a great shot either. He came in with the 2s and 3s. He played well, but not as good as Ragus, you know what I mean? So Ragus would have more of a chance, but I'm still going to stick by the DJ Turner opinion of mine. But, hey, it's nice to see that these guys are coming in and playing well. And even though the offensive line gave up a couple of sacks or whatnot, they ran really well. Running backs were able to hit those lanes. And I think that this is a very promising backfield. So I'm excited to see how all this breaks down.
Now, I hope this is not misunderstood. And I'm not going to say this as an effort to try to trash Jalen Richard in any way, because he's been a really valuable member of the Raiders for quite a few years. But if you set the COVID aside, his availability has been questionable, and he's getting up there in years. He's going to cost the Raiders more money anyway. I would not be surprised if you see Jalen Richard as an early cut, maybe this week, maybe next week. And I don't think it really has anything to do with his ability at all. I think it has more to do with the ability of the young guys coming up behind him and maybe the Raiders cutting Jalen Richard a break and allowing him a chance to latch on with another team early. And there are other teams out there that have running back needs, giving him a chance to maybe latch on with another team. So I don't want these comments to be construed as me trashing Jalen Richard as much as me tipping my cap to him and saying, job well done, but it's time to move on.
The Raiders were busy looking at several players who might contribute on defense. One was former Seahawks linebacker KJ Wright, who was very familiar with Gus Bradley and his defensive system. He made a visit to the Raiders camp but left without a deal. He is currently garnering interest from several teams, including the Raiders. Closely on the heels of that, the Raiders brought in 6-time Pro Bowler defensive tackle Gerald McCoy and promptly signed him. The 3rd overall pick of the 2010 draft by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, McCoy spent his first 9 seasons with the Bucs, was with the Panthers in 2019, and spent last year with the Dallas Cowboys before suffering a ruptured quad tendon.
I like the signing of Gerald McCoy, and I tell you this right now. I would not be surprised if Gerald McCoy is your comeback player of the year for 2021. He has so much talent. I saw all the ability when he was with the Buccaneers, loved him when he was with the Panthers. I was very upset when he got injured last year and suffered that ruptured quad tendon when he was with the Cowboys. But I still think he's got something left in the tank. I think he's already being penciled in right now as a starter on that defensive front. And he brings not only experience, but I think he brings the kind of swagger that this Raiders defensive line needs. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Gerald McCoy is going to bring to the Raiders in 2021.
I know that this is easy to say after the fact, but I really wanted Gerald McCoy coming out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I knew that guy was very good, and I knew we needed a defensive tackle that could really play well and put pressure on the quarterback. So I'm extremely excited that he's on this team. It really does give us a promising defensive line now. You know that, yeah, T3, he's definitely going to start. He will start over everybody that we have on this team. So I'm excited to see him come back. Yes, he had to deal with the ruptured quad tendon, but medicine these days, a lot of these guys bounce back strong, and so I believe that he'll be fine, and I'm excited to see what he can do for this team. If he can put some pressure up the middle, that's really going to help out Yannick Ngakoue. It's really going to help out Mad Max. I mean, this could be a deadly defense if we get a great defensive tackle. And, of course, I mean, he's better than anybody that we've had over the last 10 years, I would say. I think you'd have to go back to, I think Seymour, those days, But, yeah, I'm excited that Gerald McCoy is a Raider.
Yeah, I'm excited about this signing, too. Word on the street is that his tryout with us went very well. And the Raiders were like, "You're not leaving, we're signing you." And they just decided to hold on to him, that it went that well. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. 3 more Raider players were added just before the start of the first preseason game. Marcus Mariota had sustained a non-serious leg injury, which kept him out of the first preseason game, so the Raiders signed backup quarterback Case Cookus to the roster, a short-time journeyman in the league. Cookus is expected to be just a temporary camp body. Also, with a minor injury to kicker Daniel Carlson, the Raiders brought back Daniel Eberle, an undrafted free agent from last year, and he ended up seeing some game action against Seattle. Finally, the Raiders added defensive line depth by bringing in defensive tackle Ethan Westbrooks, who spent the 2020 offseason with the 49ers and part of the 2019 offseason with the Raiders, after spending his first 5 years of his NFL career with the Los Angeles Rams.
I thought that Peterman stepped in for Marcus Mariota and played well. I think that he proved why Gruden believed in him. And I think that Marcus Mariota, with this non-serious leg injury, unavailable, really gave Peterman a shot to show us what he can do as a fan base. Yes, it's a preseason game. Yes, it's the second stringers and whatnot, but this kid played well against these second stringers, So Mariota maybe showed our team that, Peterman can play. And maybe Marcus Mariota, even though I still want him to be our backup quarterback this season, if it came down to where we can get a great deal as far as draft picks, we might be able to trade him. I think that Peterman playing well because Marcus was unavailable really gave us a shot at, if he comes back and it is non-serious, at getting some good picks and feeling confident and Peterman being the backup quarterback. Of course, Mariota is a better backup quarterback, but Peterman played well, and if he can play that well in a backup situation, he can get us through a game or two, and as long as our defense plays well, we can trust in Peterman if he continues to play like that and develop like that. Marcus Mariota, though, is the best option at the backup quarterback, but I just thought that Peterman really played well, and I was happy to see him because he doesn't always play that well, and it seems like he's getting comfortable in the offense, and I think that that's what really showed too in the game is that the players now, are starting to look more and more comfortable in this offense. So hopefully Mariota's okay, and I hope we can keep him for the year, but you see that he's always paying attention to the other teams, where he can go to start. So I think if Peterman's playing that well, Marcus Mariota might end up somewhere else. I wouldn't be surprised if it was before the trade deadline or something like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we could get very good picks because I think that the front office would be happy to trade Marcus Mariota with Peterman playing that well in order to get some good draft picks. If we could turn Marcus Mariota into like a first or a second round draft pick, man, that's some really good front office work.
And Cookus only got an opportunity to play because Marcus Mariota was unavailable for the game. I don't think Cookus is going to last longer than this week, maybe next week, depending on how serious that leg injury is. We've been told it's not serious. So maybe we'll see Mariota this coming week against the Rams. Now, as far as the kicker goes, I've always liked Daniel Eberle from the time we brought him in as an undrafted free agent. I wouldn't be surprised to say that if something were to happen to Carlson, if he were either to drop off or something were to happen, that we would bring Eberle in before the end of the season. He may become our new kicker. You heard it here first if that happens. Defensive tackle Ethan Westbrooks, he's had a pretty good career already with the Rams for 5 years. But again, I don't see him making the squad. Again, he's coming in, providing extra depth, extra reps coming in. I think maybe another team might see him and bring him on, but I don't see Westbrooks making this team. But I do want to keep my eye on Daniel Eberle. We'll see exactly what happens with him during the course of the season.
Okay, let's talk about the game against Seattle. What we saw, perhaps what we didn't see, and what we're now looking ahead to. T3, why don't you get us started?
All right, so here's how we're going to do this. We're going to do this quarter by quarter. We're going to highlight what happened in the first quarter, and then we'll come back with comments, and then we'll do the same thing with quarters 2, 3, and 4. So we start off in the first quarter. The Raiders took the opening kickoff, and Peterman came in and took command of the offense. On the first play for the Raiders in front of the fans at Allegiant, there was a sack, so not a really good start. So after a couple of short gains, Peterman aired it out with a pretty ball to Zay Jones down the left sideline, setting the ball up in Seattle territory. A couple of plays later, another pass to Jones down the right sideline set the team up in goal-to-go formation. Now, it took the team 4 tries, but Trey Regis was able to bust in over the right side for a touchdown on 4th down, and the Raiders went up 7-0. So they were able to cash in and actually make a touchdown on that first drive. When Seattle got the ball, they were faced with a 3rd and 6, and Damon Arnett actually tracked down the Seattle receiver short of the first down, but then he missed the tackle, which gave Seattle a fresh set of downs. It was kind of like deja vu for the Raiders defense. On that same series, however, Nate Hobbs came in on a blitz and got the first Raider sack of the night. Seattle had to give the ball up. So at the end of the first quarter, Peterman got DJ Turner into the game with a quick slant over the middle. The first quarter ended with the Raiders on the move. So the Raiders got the ball, drove down and scored. Seattle got the ball, got a couple of first downs, but then had to give the ball up. And then the Raiders got the ball back to begin another drive as the first quarter ended.
Like I said, Peterman definitely took command of the offense. He's starting to settle in. He's starting to look like a pro. I think that's really a testament to John Gruden being a good quarterback whisperer type coach. And then, Zay Jones, right? In the previous episodes, we talked about our wide receiver depth chart or who would make the team. And I didn't have Zay Jones in there. But if he makes plays like that, he's going to make it really hard. But once again, if Zay Jones can make this roster, then you have to wonder where DJ Turner would be. And so we'll see how he really allows players that, might need a little help to stay on the roster, how he gives room. So we'll see how that works out. But then, Regis, he played really well. And I like that at the 1 yard line that they went behind Leatherwood, okay, and they got in. That guy is a road grader. He's huge, and that's exactly why they got him. Gruden wants to do that behind Leatherwood like he did behind Lincoln Kennedy, all those for the couple of years that he played with the Raiders under John Gruden. And then Arnett, hey, look, he did track down the receiver, missed the tackle. Yes, it was like deja vu for sure. I was like, oh, here we go. But right after that, the team settled in, and they got off the field, which was good. And I think that, Arnett, I think that can be coached out of him. He still has a shot at becoming an elite corner, I think. Or maybe a second-tier corner, But, he's got to clean up that open field tacklings. But for the most part, I thought there was a lot of really good open field tackles.
I thought that the game started off with the Raiders looking pretty good. MV Peterman, he looked pretty solid the entire game, but he definitely started off the game looking solid. People that I really kept my eyes on were Andre James, the center, and Alex Leatherwood at right tackle. And Leatherwood had a couple missteps, but overall he did a good job, and he got penetration on the run. Andre James looked pretty good. The guys that we had on the offensive line, they were not the starters, but they were the very high quality depth pieces, and it was good to see them. Simpson was out there, and Lester Cotton Jr. was out there, and Brandon Parker he actually looked okay. And what was nice was the defense didn't seem very confused. They seemed to know what was going on. Yes, there were mistakes. Arnett did miss that tackle, but he actually had good coverage on that play. It was the fact that he missed the tackle that was the problem. But his coverage on that play was good. Overall, I thought it was very positive coming out for the first preseason game, not having had any time to scrimmage anybody else. And I thought it was a solid start.
So the Raiders are up 7-0 at the end of the first quarter. So in the second quarter, they're already on the move. And Peterman and the offense mixed up some short passes with a nice run up the middle by recent addition B.J. Ammons, putting the Raiders in scoring position once again. A short pass to Marcel Aitman got the ball to the 4. Now on 3rd and goal, Peterman was flushed out of the pocket, and he forced the ball into the end zone. It was almost picked off, so the Raiders got lucky. They ended up salvaging a field goal, but again, deja vu, a long drive resulting in a field goal instead of a touchdown. This is something that they have to change. Seattle got the ball back. They completed a couple of passes, but the run defense by the Raiders was really stout, and Seattle had to give the ball back again. When the Raiders got the ball, a good mix of runs and passes kept the Raiders' drive going when they got the ball, but when Peterman made a huge mistake with the back wide open coming out of the backfield, he tried to force the ball in double coverage, and the ball was intercepted. So with just 3.5 minutes left in the first half, the Raiders' defense had to step up, and they did. The Seahawks had to give the ball back to the Raiders with 1.5 minutes left. A couple of more short passes and good usage of the clock enabled the Raiders to work their way all the way down the field and pick up 3 more points before halftime. And the Raiders were sitting pretty at 13-0 going into the locker room.
Yeah, the second quarter was also overall pretty good. Peterman did make that mistake. He actually almost threw that into triple coverage. It was one Raiders player, and he was surrounded by 3 defenders a little ways away. And basically he just served it up to them and gave them a really nice, easy pick. But it was good seeing that we did get points on the board. But yes, it was deja vu all over again. Long drive, 3 points. And that's what we can't do once the regular season starts. We need to get those touchdowns when we get into the red zone. Even Beth Mowens commented on it, that when we hit the red zone last year, it was like a 50-50 chance that we would get a touchdown versus, no points or 3 points. So it's something that we still need to work on. But it was good seeing that the Raiders did make a defensive stand, and we were able to get that ball back and put some points on the board right at the end.
I, too, want to see us score a touchdown on every red zone possession. That would be perfection. This is football, and it doesn't always work like that. I think what we need to take away from this game, right? Yes, we kicked 2 field goals when we were in there, and we could have had touchdowns. But you know what? Our defense kept us in that game, right? Peterman threw the interception, and our defense stopped him. A lot of people call Carr Captain Checkdown, but that's why he checks down. If you heard the announcers, that's what they said. He shouldn't have tried to force the ball. The check down was wide open. So there you go. That's why Carr checks down, all right, and not force the ball into triple coverage. But I think the biggest takeaway from this little segment right here is that our defense is backing up our offense. And if of course, right, if our defense can prevent the other team from scoring, we're going to win. It's right there. Yes, I would love to be able to score all those touchdowns in the red zone, but it's just not going to happen. It's not realistic. We just need to get it to where we're scoring more touchdowns than field goals. But at the same time, our defense has to be able to stop the opposing offense. And you can say this is only preseason, which is true, but it's twos versus twos. And our defensive scheme and our players looked better coached. Again, I'm just going to keep saying that because that was what was really important. That was like my biggest takeaway. That and then the open field tackling. That was huge. That's what kept the Seattle Seahawks only scoring 7 points. When you can play like that, you're going to win a handful of more games, even if you're only kicking field goals. There's a lot going around about the 4 points that don't make it on the board, on Raider Nation Radio. A lot of people are calling that out. And I mean, it's the take to have right now because we all want to see them score more. But at the same time, if you could score 20 points and the opposing team scores only 7, hey, you're going to win. You know what I mean? So the defense needs to be able to keep the opposing offense to under 20 points. Gruden is going to be able to score 20 points in a game easily. So you, at your bar as a defense has to be, we're not going to allow more than 20 points, because then you're going to win those games that are close, or you know that we kind of blow in the fourth quarter because our defense can't stop anybody. So, I would love, again, to score that many touchdowns, but if our defense isn't giving up touchdowns, we're good to go.
And I'll tell you, as pumped up as the sold-out crowd was for the preseason game and seeing a 13-0 lead at halftime, I would have paid money to see Carlos Santana performing at halftime. My goodness, what a performer and what a show. So having said that, when the Raiders came back out for the second half, the Seahawks got the ball, and in their first possession of the second half, unfortunately, the old Raiders defense came out to play. With a 4th and 4 from the Raiders' 43, a swing pass to a running back who had nobody within 15 yards of him resulted in a long gain, but then nobody wanted to tackle the back, so he scored a touchdown. So the Raiders gave up 7 points easy. Then the Raiders got the ball back. They were driving once again, but a critical sack and then a failed screen pass forced the Raiders to give the ball back up. The defense, which had been playing well for most of the game, then they let the quarterback break free and pick up a first down on what should have been a sack. Then the Raiders' defense was starting to look like it did a year ago, although on this drive, they didn't give up any points. The Raiders finally got the ball back, but the offense wasn't in sync. Another sack was given up, and they had to punt. At the end of the third quarter, it was 13-7 Raiders.
Yeah, it always seems like we come out flat in after halftime, so it would be nice to see this team get pumped up and come out strong in the second half. But again, right, that touchdown was well schemed, right? And Levitt was there. He just couldn't make the tackle. Even though I'm saying there were a lot of open field tackles, like Amik Robinson, Muse made an open field tackle on a pass. I mean, there were a lot more open field tackles than there were missed tackles. But that was definitely one of those plays that you saw last year. But again, the team came together and only allowed that offense, or only allowed the Seahawk offense to score 7 points coming out of the halftime in the third quarter, and then they went back and played well enough. Of course, our offense did go flat, but we were able to get it going again, and we'll talk about that here in a second.
Yeah, the third quarter was definitely just a repeat of last year. Dallin Levitt missing that tackle on that touchdown. It was that deja vu all over again. But the Raiders did manage to pull it together. And I think being able to pull it together when you're playing your third and fourth string players in the first preseason game says a lot about the coaching, and says that the coaching is not going to put up with that. Says a lot about the players, but I think that it's a promising sign for the Raiders that even though we did come out, we were deflated, we did give up some of the bad plays that we became very familiar with last year, we were able to shake that off and pull it together, come up in the next quarter, in the fourth quarter.
So then at the beginning of the fourth quarter, the Seahawks had the ball deep in their own territory, and the Raider defense had to step up, and they did. And they got the ball back for the offense in really good field position. Ragus and Ammons then continued to run hard. We saw a quick pass to DJ Turner, and they got the ball all the way down to the 15. And then Ammons performed his Marcus Allen impersonation by leaping over the middle of the pile for a touchdown. Another sustained drive, this time ending up in 7 points rather than 3. So we finally made it all the way down the field and got that touchdown. Now, with just 6.5 minutes left in the game, the Raiders had a comfortable 20-7 lead. Another solid defensive effort followed, and the Raiders got the ball back again with just over 3 minutes left. And then Case Cookus came in to mop up and wind the clock. The Seahawks got the ball back one last time, but the game was effectively over and ended right there. 20-7 Raiders.
Yeah, when BJ Emmons went over the top, that's what I told Andrea. I was like, hey, look at this. It's his Marcus Allen impersonation. Marcus would have made it a little bit farther. And what she said was it was kind of like a mix between a Marcus Allen and a Bo Jackson impersonation. He went up like Marcus Allen, but he pushed the pile like Bo Jackson would have. And that was just really cool to see. I was impressed with Trey Ragus throughout the entire game. He looked sharp. And one thing I want to look a little bit more on him coming up in the next game is going to be how he picks up on blocking. Because I know that's one thing that Jalen Richard really has down very well, and maybe be able to compare them as possibly the third running back. But I thought the fourth quarter did end up strong, and it was a positive part to end the game on.
You know, my favorite part about the fourth quarter is that the team got their shit right. You know what I mean? They came back to start playing defense again and start moving the ball on the offense and scored the touchdown in the fourth quarter. It's important to really score touchdowns in the fourth quarter. You know, I mean, all quarters, but especially in the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? When you want to put that game away, right? Because when we're getting closer and closer to the end of the minute or the end of the game, and we're only, you know, up 13-7, and then we get the touchdown, it really seals the deal, and that's what we need. I think that, you know, Gruden really has the guys that he needs, and it's showing, and he's coaching them up. And the time of possession in the notes, you can look at it. We'll talk about that here in a second. That was exactly what Gruden wants to do. And I think that is, if our first string offense can execute that, we're going to definitely do well this year. But I like that this team came together in the fourth quarter and got it back together and really showed that they were better coached. I think that's the overall theme of this breakdown, right? Is that this team is better coached than what it was last year. Of course, the offense, you know, a lot of these guys are kind of they've been in it. They're coming back into it. Zay Jones was in it. He's been in it a couple years now. You know, you've seen a lot of these other guys on the team that have been around, and they're really getting this offense now. But on the defensive side, you know, Heidi, you just said it a little while ago, they look coached very well. In position, doing great things. Yeah, there's going to be missed tackles. You know, you're playing a professional team on the other side of the ball, but it's minimizing your mistakes. You know, and I think that's what we did I was saying, oh, here we go again. Only said that a few times, but there were more, all right, now we're starting to get it moments. And I think that's what this game shows, right? You know what? And another thing is, right, maybe that home field advantage, you know, really was what the Raiders needed. You know, having the crowd in the game to cheer them on and help out with, you know, to making all the noise of the other team, you know, make it harder on the other team. You know, that's huge. You know, and so I think this is a good step forward for this team to start winning at home. You know, going 2-6 at home last year, that ain't gonna cut it. You know, you got to win at home. But then we already know we can play well on the road. We played well on the road for the last 2 years. So if we can get that home field advantage and get it going at home and coalesce at the end of the games to really shut down the other team and put the game away, man, I smell playoffs.
And here are some interesting notes from the game. The Raiders gained 385 yards versus just 194 for the Seahawks. The time of possession difference was huge. The Raiders 40 minutes 37 seconds versus 19 minutes and 23 seconds. The Raiders only had 4 penalties for 37 yards. The defense limited Seattle to 16 offensive plays in the first half and only 44 yards and 3 first downs. Nate Peterman was 29 of 39 passing for 246 yards and 1 interception. Trey Regis led the way on offense with 62 yards on 13 carries, and he also scored a touchdown. Zay Jones caught 3 balls, including 2 big catches in the first quarter drive for 57 yards. 11 different Raiders caught passes in the game. Javon White led the Raiders' defense with 6 tackles, while Nate Hobbs had 1 sack and 1 tackle for loss. Allegiant Stadium was sold out for the home opener. Now the Raiders must cut their roster to 85 players on Tuesday, then to 80 on August 24th, and then down to 53 on August 31st.
You know, the time of possession, you know, I've talked about it over and over. Gruden loves to control the clock. 40 minutes, 37 seconds versus 19 minutes, 23 seconds. That's exactly what we want to do. We kept our defense on the sideline and rested, and we kept their defense on the field exhausted, and it showed. All right, now another big thing, right? 4 penalties, 37 yards. Again, that's coaching. You know, we're starting to get, if we can do that, man, that's even more of a chance for us to get into the playoffs. I mean, I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling excited about this. But, yeah, I like seeing 4 penalties for 37 yards. Not a lot of bonehead plays out there. You know, Nate Peterman, you know, hitting 11 different wide receivers. Man, that just goes to show that that's the type of offense that, you know, Gruden provides. He provides you with options. He provides you with schemes that help the quarterback. You know, there was a few mistakes, but Derek Carr's not going to make those types of mistakes. So if you see Nate Peterman doing this type of stuff, And John Gruden's offense, I don't see Derek Carr taking any steps back unless they really do focus on the run more, which is a possibility. But, Drake coming out of the backfield, T3, as you've said, that could really help with Carr's numbers as well. And yeah, Allegiant Stadium sold out for the home opener. I saw my boy Oakland Raider Savage on TV. Shout out to him, man. Cannot wait to make it there myself. Man, Javen White, right? Yeah, 6 tackles, man. That kid was playing very well. But I was excited to see Nate Hobbs come off the edge and get that sack. If we can get some cornerbacks coming off the edge and getting sacks, helping that pass rush, man, that's really going to help. I'm interested to see who's going to get cut down to the 85 players, by this Tuesday. This is an exciting time of the season, and I'm super stoked. Raider Nation for life.
There you go. Nate Hobbs has already gotten a lot of play for the season, and a lot of people have been talking about him. But here's a star in the making right here, which is kind of unheard of for a 5th-round draft pick. But Homer, you mentioned the time possession was really, really critical throughout the course of the game. Trey Regis leading the way on offense with 62 yards on 13 carries. I really think he's putting himself in a position to make this team. Zay Jones, the same thing. The 2 big catches he made in that first quarter drive were huge. They were great catches. But I like the fact that the Raiders got 11 different receivers involved in the passing game. The more we can mix it up, keep the defense on their heels, that's going to speak volumes for the team going forward. And I also like that Javen White led the Raiders with 6 tackles. He's coming in now. He's making a name for himself. He's doing all the things that I hoped he would have been able to do last year, but wasn't able to take advantage of any preseason games. So I'm glad to see Javen White shining now and hope that this will translate to big things for him for the coming season.
Okay, T3, how about bringing us your top 3 for the week?
T3's top 3.
All right, here is this week's top 3. Number 1, with the signing of Gerald McCoy, many of the fans within Raider Nation are already saying that the defense is in trouble, that Solomon Thomas and Cleve Ferrell are both busts, and that Gus Bradley is now grasping at straws to find a defensive line presence. Well, I will just remind everyone that we're early into camp, and Gus is busy seeing not only who fits where and the best way possible, but he's also looking for a rotation, who pairs up well on the line. Bradley's already stated that he plans to freely rotate to keep guys fresh, so it doesn't necessarily matter who makes the play, simply that someone is positioned right to then step up and make a play. Number 2, Bo Scarborough. Yes, I know he's just another Alabama back. However, he has some size, and that's the one thing that this running back room has been lacking. Now, if Scarborough can stay healthy throughout training camp and get in some good work during the preseason, you might just be looking at that 3rd running back on the roster. An all-Alabama backfield? Hey, listen, they're all healthy, all productive, and they all bring that unique flavor of the running game. I'm good with that. Number 3, Willie Snead. Okay, I'll repeat that, Willie Snead. I'm looking toward him now to fill out that receiving corps, and here's why. First, Gruden loves that veteran presence, and I think Snead may be able to come in and contribute against his former team, the Ravens, in Week 1. The other reason I like Snead is that someone will need to step up in case one of the receivers gets injured. And I hate to say Edwards, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Edwards. I don't want to be a pessimist, but Edwards is going to have to show me both stability and availability this year to make me a true believer. And now, having said all that, I'm just going to say, watch out for DJ Turner. And that is this week's top 3.
Well, I already said what I was going to say about Gerald McCoy. His tryout went really well. Raiders saw him, weren't going to let him leave. And I think that doesn't mean that Solomon Thomas or Cleve Ferrell are busts. In fact, Ferrell's name got called quite a bit in that first preseason game. He was making penetration and getting some pressure on the quarterback. I agree that it's just a matter of having the right guy in the right position. If it happens to be Solomon Thomas, great. If it happens to be Gerald McCoy, fantastic. But I'm not worried about defensive tackles just because Gerald McCoy is signed. I'm worried just because it's been such a weak spot of ours, but not necessarily because of the Gerald McCoy signing. Bo Scarborough, we love Alabama, don't we? I think he might be coming in a little bit too late to really be in contention for that 3rd running back spot, but you never know. stranger things have happened. And Willie Snead, I find it interesting that nobody's talking about him. I know that last year they basically hid Nelson Aguilar on the roster come training camp and the preseason. And the reason is because they knew what they had in him and they didn't want anyone to find out. So I wonder, Willie Snead, you're not hearing anything about it. Is it because he's really just not making an impression and he's not going to be sticking around? Or do they know what they have and they just want to hold on to him? I'm not positive, so it's kind of a toss-up to me. But I think either one would be a very legitimate possibility.
You know, I'm not opposed to an all-Alabama backfield, but I think that Ragas has a better shot. That kid was running well, outside, inside. He was patient. He let the blocks develop. He played really well. Again, though, I still think that depending on what happens with, the roster and how it shapes up, DJ Turner gives us the ability to, stack up on players in certain positions. So we'll see how that goes through. Now, Willie Snead, I think that he's going to make the team. I think that he's kind of like that Theo Riddick player that we signed last year, not splashy, not necessarily a huge name, but somebody that's played well in the NFL for a long time. So I definitely see Willie Snead sticking around. Of course, Zay Jones, man, that guy impressed me with the catches he was making. So he's going to make it hard, for this team to be cut down, but it's going to happen. So I'm excited to see how it gets cut down because, look, there's a lot of talent on this roster, man. These players that get cut, they got a chance, a really good chance of going somewhere else and playing on another team. So it's very competitive, which is something that we've always talked about on this roster, starting with, Mariota coming and Drake coming, competition. Iron sharpens iron, right? You hear that a lot on Raider Nation Radio. So, that is true. And this iron is getting sharp, man, because we are playing well and it's competitive. And these guys, they don't want to go play for somewhere else, despite what Arden Key says. It's a limited amount of players that act like that. The majority of the players, they want to be here. And I think that is very awesome. And you know what? I'll let that lead into Homer's Hammer.
Faster than Henry Ruggs, more powerful than Bo Jackson on Tecmo Bowl, able to leap tall social media trolls in a single bound. Look, there in the toolbox. It's a nail. Nailed it. It's a screwdriver. No, it's Homer's Hammer.
All right, look, I got to say, the signing of Gerald McCoy is not grasping at straws. All right, this is Gus Bradley taking a look at his options and being a coach, and a coach that has say, right? A lot of people say that John Gruden is in complete control over this roster and doesn't allow other people to make decisions. But I think that this signing is what Gus Bradley showing his worth. That's what this is to me. He knows that Gerald McCoy is that type of defensive tackle that can play and destroy the middle. So Raider Nation, stop with all that, please. Raider Nation, I'm going to have to say we because I'm a part of it, but we're the one grasping at straws right now. All right, you got to take a look at what's really happening. This team came together, and these are the backups. Gerald McCoy didn't even touch the field, and we only allowed one touchdown. Gus Bradley is not grasping at straws. Gus Bradley is putting together a great defense, and you can tell because that defense was everywhere. Yes, a couple of missed tackles, one that led to a touchdown, but I don't see Moreg missing that tackle. I don't see Carl Joseph missing that tackle. I don't see our starters missing that tackle. All right, the starters that Gus Bradley's putting in place are the type of starters that are going to create that elite Legion of Boom type defense, okay? These kids are playing well for Gus Bradley. It showed that Gus Bradley has the ability to coach, just as John Gruden has the ability to coach. I'm excited about this. Nobody's grasping at straws, so stop putting stuff like that out there on social media, man. You're making us all look like fools when you post stupid shit like that. So just get it together, Raider Nation, because you know what? Win, lose, or tie, we are Raiders until we die, but we're not losing this year. I guarantee you we're going to the playoffs, and you heard it here on the Only Nation podcast.
All right, give us a call at 904-701-8667. Leave us a voicemail or text message at that number, or send in a message via social media, and we'll share your thoughts. And this week, we did have a message from Raider Art Just a reminder from him to be sure to check his show out on YouTube. So check out Raider Art's show on YouTube. I'm always coming out with great stuff. Thank you, Art.
Great show, by the way.
Yeah, once again, Raider Nation, show Raider Art some support. Look, this kid grew up in Oakland, going to the games. His mom is Candy Padilla. She was a photographer on the field. This is a Raider family. And Art is a kid that deserves, he's a kid that grew into a man that deserves some recognition by the Raider Nation. So make sure you go follow Raider Art's YouTube channel. Please, Raider Nation.
Definitely. And then on this week on Raiders Roots, we are going to be looking at how the Raiders did in 1965. So check out that episode that's airing tomorrow. And now it's about time to find out what Homer does or doesn't know.
Hey Homer, did you know?
Okay, now it's time for another edition of Hey Homer, Did You Know? In this segment, I will ask Homer and Heidi and the rest of our listening audience a Raiders-related question with 3 possible answers to choose from. It's multiple choice, so just give it your best guess. So here goes with this week's question. All right, now this is a brain teaser. This is a tricky one. In his 16-year NFL career, all-time leading rusher Emmitt Smith had 16 runs of 40 yards or more. Which Raider back matched that same number of 16 runs for 40 or more yards, but did it in a much, much shorter time frame? Was it A, Darren McFadden, B, Napoleon Kaufman, or C, Bo Jackson? And I gave you a little hint there in the field there. Homer, what do you think is the answer?
Just to be clear, I don't know a lot of these. It's multiple choice, so sometimes I just get lucky. But that's the point of this segment, is to learn, So I appreciate all your hard work. Now, I feel like I have to go with C, because if it's C and I don't get it right, I'm not going to be able to claim that I'm a Bo Jackson fan, right? But Kaufman was really great at breaking through the line and getting long runs. Now, McFadden, I don't see McFadden being this guy, because we used to call him McFragile, right? So I'm just going to go with Bo Jackson, because I don't want to miss it if it is Bo Jackson.
All right, Heidi, what's your guess?
Well, I know it's not McFadden, because he didn't spend his entire, I know it's not McFadden. And Jackson, I want it to be Jackson. But we've been agreeing too much on too many of the answers. And his is the obvious one. So I'm going to have to go with B, Napoleon Kaufman. Just because.
And the answer is, drum roll please, B, Napoleon Kaufman.
Oh, man, come on. That's all right, though. I had to go with my boy Bo.
I actually had to do a little bit of research on this, and in the short time that he was with the Raiders, he did get 16 runs of 40 or more yards. He was a great back for the time he was with the Raiders. I kind of threw Bo Jackson in there because he had several, but not quite 16, amazingly enough.
Yeah,
But
I just didn't see his career being long enough for that.
Yeah. So Napoleon Kaufman is your answer.
All right.
That is this week's version of Hey Homer, Did You Know?
Hey, I'll take that one, though, because I had to go with Bo.
No, and I totally, when I was reading the script beforehand, and I just saw the question, I don't look up the answers. I really don't. But when I just saw the question, while I was reading the question, I was like, oh, Bo Jackson. And then I saw he was one of the options, and I was like, oh, no, that's too obvious.
Yeah, T3 did that just to make me miss it.
I did that for your benefit.
All right.
Well, I knew it wasn't A because of the entire career thing, so.
Yeah, he went to the Cowboys, right? McFadden.
Went to the Cowboys
Yeah.
at the end of his career, yeah. For the fans out there, well, I did leave notes in there saying that he played his entire career with the Raiders. So that was the hint that I left for both Heidi and Homer, which you all didn't get benefit of.
And now, Raider Nation, it's time for Heidi's Heroes.
Tom Flores was the first Mexican starting quarterback in professional football history and the first minority head coach in professional football history to win a Super Bowl. He is the only man in NFL history to win a Super Bowl as a player, assistant coach, and twice as a head coach. He grew up in Sanger, California, and Sanger High School's football stadium is named Tom Flores Stadium in honor of Flores, who was a graduate of Sanger High School. He continues to head the Tom Flores Youth Foundation, which benefits the K through 8th grades in the Sanger School District in the fields of art, science, and sports. He has also received an honorary doctorate degree from Pepperdine University for humanitarian service. He is a member of the University of the Pacific Athletics Hall of Fame, the Fresno County Athletic Hall of Fame, the California Sports Hall of Fame, the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame, and the California Community College Athletic Association Hall of Fame. In July 2011, Flores received the Roberto Clemente Award for Sports Excellence. This past month, Flores received perhaps his greatest honor. He was inducted into the Professional Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. The long overdue award comes as his decades-long career in football winds down at the age of 84. Flores gave his life to football and the community. In light of his life of service and his most recent honor, he has also been named as this week's Heidi's Hero.
Let me also say that in addition to Tom Flores being a personal hero, I have a signed copy of his book, The Iceman, which I cherish greatly. Flores also, in addition to being in the Hall of Fame, is one of only 2 people in National Football League history to win a Super Bowl as a player, an assistant coach, and as a head coach. Mike Ditka is the other.
But he's the only one to win it twice as a head coach.
That is correct.
You know, I got to see Coach Flores go into Canton in person, and it was fantastic. It was a great weekend, and the night before, you know, we had got to have dinner with Coach Flores. So shout out to Ryan Stone and to Polo Rodriguez for setting all that up. It was a fantastic time to sit in there with Coach, you know, and get pictures and autographs. And you know what? It's long overdue, but it's here. We don't have to say that anymore. It's here. Tom Flores, you know, being the first Hispanic to win a Super Bowl as a player, as a coach, and all that, become, you know, a GM, do broadcasting for 20 years. You know, he represented La Raza to the fullest, and I'm glad that I was there. You know, I was sitting there, and I saw David Velasquez from Oklahoma, Raider Nation, is sitting there with me, and I looked at him, and I said, hey, you know what? I'm glad that me and you got to see this together, because he knew me before the Raider Homer channel, you know what I mean? And so it was awesome to get there and for us to see Coach Flores going to Hall of Fame together, going on our journey. And, you know, another thing I'd like to say is that it's maybe a shameless plug, but it ties into this. Coach Flores, through Polo Rodriguez, we were able to get my club, the Black Hole, here in Austin, Texas, we were able to get an autographed helmet that we were going to raffle off for next year's Texas Pit Crew. But unfortunately, my friend Cesar Rodriguez passed away, and he was a huge Tom Flores fan. And so we are raffling off that helmet in honor of Cesar and trying to raise money to help his family. So you can just go to my YouTube page or you can go to my Facebook page and click on his GoFundMe link right there and enter the raffle. But it was nice being there, and my friend Cesar Rodriguez was there with me. So show some support for his family, because that's what we do, right? We supported Tom Flores all the way into the Hall of Fame, and then Raider Nation showed up, and we showed out.
And also an honorable mention for Heidi's Heroes for Mr. Charles Woodson and Mr. Wayne Mabry. Charles Woodson also entered the Pro Football Hall of Fame this month, and Wayne Mabry was inducted into the Ford Hall of Fans. All 3 of them great Raiders heroes. And that about does it for this week on the Only Nation podcast. If you'd like to help support the show, buy us a hot dog at buymeacoffee.com/onlynationpod. You can find me, Heidi Stabbert, on social media as at Kepler Prom Dress on Twitter and Instagram, or Heidi Stabbert on Facebook. You're welcome to message me on Facebook, but don't start asking creepy personal questions when you do. You can also find me on YouTube on Captain Jack Rackham's channel every other Tuesday night. Join the DC Wench, Peggy Holmes, and Andrea Trask on The Captain and His Wenches show.
You know what? I ran into Peggy in Canton as well, so shout out to Peggy Holmes. And of course, Captain Jack was there, but, you know, it was fantastic. Again, it was fantastic. Yeah. But Raider Nation, you know what? The season's here. So follow me. Just go to theraiderhomerchannel.buzzsprout.com. There you will find links to all my social media accounts as well as to my podcasts. We are going to continue Monday nights live until the Monday before the first Monday night game. And then we will switch over to the pregame show, which will feature me, Oakland Raider Savage, and the Raider Puppet. So tune in, subscribe. We're also having a subscription raffle because we hit 700 subscribers. So if you go there to my Facebook page and subscribe to my YouTube page, and then go to my Facebook page and post a screenshot of your subscription, I will enter you into a raffle to get some Chucky Stuggs merch, which we are raffling off some Chucky Stuggs flags as well as a koozie. And of course, go to chuckystuggs.com, enter Homer to get 15% off of your purchase, because they are going to have a flag challenge all season long. That means you take your Chucky Stuggs flags into the stadium and get on TV with it, and you can win $500. So go to chuckystuggs.com, register, because you can even get a discount on your order doing that. And then type in the code HOMER to get 15% off. Once again, that's chuckystuggs.com.
Hey, Raider Nation, we got some really good news this week that our podcast is continuing to grow and get good numbers, and we thank you for tuning in and helping us with that. So now that you've listened to this show, here's what you need to do. Send us your name and address so we can send you some free Raiders swag. Call us and tell us what you want to know. Throw us an interesting nugget so we can use that on one of our upcoming episodes and become a part of what we're doing here. Remember, this is the only nation, and we want you to be a part of it. So call us 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Call us now and join the Only Nation podcast family. Now, there are two easy ways to find me on social media. You can send me a tweet at T3_sports703, as many of you do, or you can hit me up on Facebook at Tom, T-H-O-M, Jones. I'll do my best to respond back. I'd love to include your comments on an upcoming show. And thank you for tuning in and getting involved. And I also want to personally thank everyone for their additional support and feedback on the Raider Roots podcast. As Heidi mentioned earlier, we're getting ready now to launch episode number 7 this week, which covers the year 1965.
Until next time, everyone, go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
We are not just a nation, we are the only nation. Raiders.